What's going on, y'all? Jordan, another episode of Lightning Latest. Got a few different things we're going to talk about today. First off, though, we talked about the goaltenders yesterday, right? We got preseason coming up, a couple more weeks. And today we're going to break down the first line defense. We're also going to talk about a new McDonough deal, Gunsel, and of course, y'all know I love to end with a what if. So let's get it going. First line, obviously, we know Victor Hedman's going to be first line left defense. Done, locked in, bam, bam, boom, we're good, right? Then we're going to be looking at who his partner should be. At the moment, Erik Cernak would probably be the safer choice, right? They've played together for so many years. They know each other pretty well. But we saw last year, right? J.J. Moser started to get time up there. I think that it's time for them to give Moser that first number one right defense role right next to Hedman. It's going to be the best way to see if he can handle stepping up to that kind of workload, right? And it's important because we need those long-term pieces. We've been talking about that the last few weeks. We need the long-term pieces. We need to build and continue to bring in that next wave of talent. Moser has the ability to be a part of that next wave of talent. Right, we got him, big part of the Sergachev deal. He was our return alongside Connor Geekie. So I mean, we got to see what he can do. I think he should be the guy in the first line. We might see Erik Cernak from time to time, and that will be fine with me. He handled the 82 game slate pretty well last year for his first time, but can he do it for the first time this year? He's getting close. He got close last year, but he needs to be able to handle it this year. That's the only way we're going to be able to tell he's a true number one. He's also going to be an RFA next summer. If he gets off to a hot start, do we go ahead and try to lock him into a new deal early? Do we wait? What kind of a deal would it be? Would it be a bridge deal? We've already discussed this. And I think we're going to go further in depth. Probably a month or two into the season, we'll break it down again and see what it could really look like. But for now, it's going to be J.J. Moser with Heddy. And I'm really looking forward to Heddy's second season as captain, too. Because he really brought it last year when he got the badge. And I personally think he's going to bring it again. Speaking of long-term Lightning defensemen, though. We're going to switch gears and we're going to go talk about a Ryan McDonough deal. What it would look like. He's going to be a UFA next summer. Unrestricted free agent. He's going to be 36. Right? He's making $6.75 million this year in the final year of a 7-season contract. Good chunk of change. Would a 2 to 3 year deal get it done? I believe so. I believe a 3-year deal will probably be, what'll end up happening. Could it go to 4? Possibly. I don't think so, but it is possible. But he's getting up there. However, after we got him back last summer, right? It's like the McDonough Volt again. So, I think he's going to want to retire here and finish his career here. It just depends on how much money we're able to give him and how long of a deal he wants. He won't be making as much as he did, but $4 or $5 million, he still does quite a bit. He's our left defense on the second pair. He's our lockdown guy, along with Cernak, So I don't have a problem with giving him that kind of a contract, especially because the cap's gonna continue to rise, right? It's projected to be $108 million next year. If we give him $4 or $5 million for a couple of years, 3 years, as it continues to rise, I think it's gonna be worth it. They really need to work out a deal where he does retire here, because it's clear that he loves playing here. He's highly respected in the locker room. And personally, I don't want to think about it Ryan McDonough again. I want him to retire here. So let's see if that actually happens. I believe it should. But we're not going to know. At least for probably a few more weeks. It depends. Could be months. Could be when next summer hits. But we're going to pivot to last summer's top free agent signing. And that is Mr. Jake Gunsel. Oh, man. First season with us last year. Excellent. Just really, really So good. 80 points in 80 games, right? 41 goals, 39 assists. Also his healthiest season since 2018-2019 when he played all 82 games for the Penguins. Now, the majority of his career was spent in Pittsburgh, right? Learn from the kid, learn from Malkin. We're not the biggest fans of them down here, but still talents nonetheless. He's going to be 30 years old. He's got to stay healthy and try to play in all 82. Here's the reason for that. If he can't, then Brandon Hagel continues the progression he showed last year. Hagel will be the first line left winger. Now, we all know we're chasing Stanley Cups, so it's not the end of the world if Hagel gets to become that good and teams up with Kucherov on the first line. But, we're kind of hoping that Guentzel really stays healthy and goes past the 80-point mark. In fact, I'm currently writing a piece with clutch points, which I'll talk to you guys about in the next few days when it's done. And one of the key parts of it is Guentzel and why I think he's going to have a career year this year with us. But he's got to stay in the lineup, right? Got to stay in the lineup. He was signed to primarily Stammer's, his long-term replacement. Right? We lost Stammer to the Preds, but we already had Guentzel lined up. So, worked out well. Based on last season, though, Hagel exploded, and he did have a better season overall than Guentzel. But Hagel's been in the system longer. He knows what it takes. Now that Guentzel has a year under his belt with Coop and with his fellow line mates and with his fellow teammates even, it's going to help him a lot, I think, in the long run. Really excited to see just how good he's going to be this year. I believe he's going to go over 100 points. I personally think he's going to go over 100 points. Will he be the team's leading point getter? Who knows? It is certainly possible, but it could happen. It could not, because we have a lot of them. We have Cooch, we have Hagel coming up. Connor Geeky can do stuff. Braden Point, Anthony Cirelli. There's just so much talent on this team offensively. But I think Guentzel's really going to take that next step up this year. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. In fact, I might have to ask for a jersey of his for Christmas. But we're going to pivot because, all summer, right? The past few weeks we've been talking about depth offense, building up the depth, building up the third and fourth lines, bringing the next wave of talent in. And this next what if has a lot to do with that. We're going to be talking today about Mason McTavish from the Anaheim Ducks. So, 22 years old, going to turn 23 midway through next year. He set a career high in points last year with 52, 22 goals and 30 assists. All right. The Ducks see him as a key long-term piece. They just traded Trevor Zegras. He's no longer there, right? But they're kind of hoping that McTavish, like Cutter Gauthier, like all of these young talented players can come up and coalesce and be the next contending core. Now, former Lightning front office member Pat Verbeek, he's there. He's the GM there. But trade inquiries have picked up since last month. Teams are looking to add a potential long-term star, and that's McTavish could easily be that. Easily. We're looking at, talking about improving the third and fourth lines. McTavish would do that right now. Furthermore, he would be a potential long-term top-line center. It's highly possible. He would be able to develop next few years, though, behind Braden Point, behind Anthony Cirelli, which is fantastic. Cirelli's one of the best defensive centers in the game. Point's obviously one of the best offensive threats overall in the game. Plus, he would play alongside players like Nick Paul, Yanni Gord, Gage Goncalves, Connor Geeky. It would all, especially if McTavish plays alongside Geeky and Goncalves, that's great because we're trying to build that next wave of stars. Mason McTavish will certainly be that. Now, he'd be expensive. Not only would we have to trade for him, but we'd have to work out a new contract. And I can assure you we probably wouldn't want to trade for him without a new contract. put together. So it's going to be tough. I think that it could happen. It could happen. But remember we talked about, right? We got to balance out ways to utilize our prospect depth, even though it is thinning, to get players that are both ready to play now and contribute to a Stanley Cup winner, but also potential long-term fits, right? Mason McTavish would be that and more. I feel like he'd be a really, really good pickup for us. Would it happen before the season? Probably not. Could it happen at the trade deadline? Possibly, or beforehand. Could it happen during the summer when he's an RFA? We trade for his rights, like we did with Gunsel. Possibly. It's certainly a possibility as well. I can see that going in any number of ways. But for now, he's probably going to be a Duck for at least a little while longer. It would be a lot of fun to trade for him, but we'll see. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about another what if revolving another Anaheim Duck. So more rapport with some Western Conference teams there. Also, a new JJ Moser deal. Like we talked about earlier, we'll be touching on that. Second line defense. But also there's a little query I want to run by you guys with Coop. Because I'm interested to see. My main question is how much longer does he want to coach? But if this is for a long time, I'm good with it. But we'll talk about that more tomorrow. I'm really excited to break down a couple more things with you guys, especially some potential additions. So this is Jordan Llanes signing off, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.